work with a lot of different softwares, all
You got kicked out or dropped out. You there, John?
Yep. Hi.
How you doing today? And hello,
Good,
everybody.
good.
John, it is funny. People are gonna laugh because they'll understand this is not scripted. But I was working on, you know how I always say with QAP, I wish I had known about it years ago, right? Before I had built my own menus. Well, my web scraping syntax writer is in my old format, and it's like, oh Lord, to move that over, as easy as QAP is to do it, it would take time, and my thing currently works, and I almost never update it. But this morning I was using it and I realized it was missing something. So I thought, unless someone has something, I'm going to show how painful it is to add something to the old way. And then, like in QAP, it's not even really worth demonstrating because it's so simple, right? But so
what we could also do, let me just shut down the sound here. Okay, we could also talk about something I'm working on. It's the ini file, very little known ini file limitation. When you deal with large content in your ini file, there's a limitation that is good to know, and there are ways to work around that. So we could also discuss that if we don't have other questions.
Yeah, I don't know why, because they're so simple, and it's great that AutoHotkey has it built in that you can do the edit, read and write to them.
Yeah,
it makes it so easy to save a setting for something.
Yeah,
right.
And it's very efficient. It's fast, even with for large content. It can read and write very fast to this file, even if it's a text file compared to the database, from my test, it was. I considered at some point to moving the settings of quick access pop-up to a SQLite file, because I started using SQLite to make some calculation about the usage, frequent files, frequent folders that the user is using to build a dynamic menu with that. So at that time, I considered moving all the settings to the SQLite database, but I finally decided to keep it in the ini file because it was already very efficient, always available, no dependency. So some user would have issue with SQLite because in some rare case SQLite will create issues, especially if you run this on a cloud drive that is synchronized. So there could be conflict between the synchronizer and your application. So there's no issue like that with any files.
Or multiple people accessing it at the same time can, with the SQLite, really get a problem.
Yeah.
It's been a few years. Yeah. I'm blanking on his name, but there was a guy I spoke to over in France, and he had written a class that for the ini read and write stuff, and it did amazing things. I think we demoed it in his I did a one-on-one, expert deep dive with him. But anyway, it was very powerful. I'm blanking on I haven't talked to him in years now, but he was a really nice guy.
Yeah, I see we have Matthew with us. Hi, Matthew. Yeah, are you with us because you have any question or issue to discuss or?
Hi, John. No, so I was telling Joe right before I hit the wrong button and kicked myself out of the meeting.
So you're welcome.
I always find these very fruitful for what I do. So I was telling Joe, I do building information modeling. So we work with a lot of Autodesk software, similar to AutoCAD, but a little more, slightly more advanced than the old AutoCAD days. And
you that showed maybe last week or 2 weeks ago,
right, the model,
the AutoCAD model. Yeah, it was very impressive.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so we do a lot of that, or I do a lot of that, and then of course my colleagues. I'm always trying to get my colleagues to understand how valuable AutoHotkey is, because I see them mousing around all over the place, and then also people are like, "Wow, you really put that building together really fast." And I'm like, "Hey, once you get your keyboard shortcuts figured out, and get everything working the way you want. It seems like it's laborious at first, but uh, after a while, and then you get the muscle memory down, it just flows so smoothly.
Hey, first 3 years of me using AutoHotkey, it was just like hot strings and hotkeys. And I'll tell you, I was probably like 10 times faster than anybody else doing what I did. I mean, it made such a difference. And I thought I was the bomb, and I was for that period. But I'm like, when I realized everything else it can do, I was like, holy cow, I was barely scratching the surface of what you can do with AutoHotkey. But
exactly. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is I use the hot strings, I use the hotkeys, and I just the low hanging fruit, so to speak.
Which is fine. Yeah, we all start somewhere. Now here, I was going to ask you this, Matthew, if you have this experience. My friend Gabe and I, we coined it the great things by, right? We'll talk to other people who we see, they do the same things we do, right? And you're like, trust me, and they go, wow, you did that really fast. Yeah, well, let me show you how I did it. And they go, wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. It's so incredible. See ya. And then they never try to learn it, and it's just so puzzling to me.
I think that people have a hard time seeing the investment that you put in up front is going to save you time later. I think that's the hard part. And I think that goes with programming or anything else. I think people just have a hard time saying, okay, it's going to take me maybe a day or two to create the script to make it work. And how much time is that actually going to save me? I'm under the gun. I got to get this done. And I understand.
Yeah, it's a matter of time management.
Yeah, the analogy
often is because people don't have time, but you have to find time to invest in gagner du temps in French, gaining time or saving time. Yeah.
Well, the analogy, and I'm trying to remember the guy. It's a very popular productivity book author. I just can't think of who it is. Stephen somebody. But he talks about this guy in the forest, right? He's walking through the forest and he sees these two guys cutting down a tree, and they're working really hard, and they're cutting. And the guy goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" It's like, we gotta cut all these trees down here. We're working really hard. We got to get done. And the guy says, "Well, have you sharpened your saw?" They're like, no, we don't have time for that. We gotta cut them down, right? And the whole thing, of course, is if you spend a little time to sharpen your saw, you'll actually cut the trees down faster, right? But it's really hard. It's that mentality of like, I got to get this done now. And which is, I think most people I've talked with AutoHotkey, we're the, I think it's one of the best ways to identify people that are long-term thinkers versus short-term, of like, you know what, even if I have to work extra hours and still get my stuff done manually, I'm going to spend a couple extra hours, here and there to learn how to save that extra time. Right. And
I think that's really good what you're saying there, and I was about to respond in that way. Is for instance, I have a project right now that I'm working on. I just got it issued to me last week, and I kind of got to hit the ground running. I don't really have time to create any scripts or anything like, but at the same time, I don't really know what I would create scripts for in the first week or so. But then as I start to establish a workflow, I'm like, okay, I've kind of got some good footing. I'm going to step back for a few minutes. I'm going to automate some of this stuff, and then I just become that more efficient. So I think there's a little bit of a give and take to that. If you are under the gun, I understand you don't have time to write a script, and sometimes you may not know what you need to write a script for initially.
Sure.
But when you find yourself doing something repetitive, take the time and knock that out with the script.
Joe, you were talking about Stephen Covey, the author. I've read that, and it's good stuff.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is Matthew, also, Jackie and I both always encourage, don't automate the entire thing. You can pick key elements and typically get that done very quickly. And it might be, even if it's 40%, let's just say, right? It saves you a really good chunk of time. And then your next time through, automate a little more. Your next time through, automate, add a little bit more functionality, a little more testing. For confirmation of what you're doing and logic. And it allows you, like at TI, I seriously took over 20%, maybe a third of my time just learning and I didn't tell them, right? Because I had automated so much of my job, I just kept that extra time to myself and kept learning more to automate more for them. It's not like I was ripping them off. They were benefiting like crazy from it. But yeah.
Joe, we have a question from Brian Bills. Is there a way to add a random file to a VLC playlist with AutoHotkey?
Ooh.
I don't know enough VLC. If you can create playlists, I don't know. It depends from where you take your, do we talk about MP3 files here? Probably. So you have to select a files random from your base directory where you save all your files. Probably you have artist, album, something, a structure like that for your folders. So you will need to scan this whole tree of folders and then select one randomly. Or even if it's not in subdirectories, even if it's only in one folder, you have to select a file. Then how to add it to the playlist of VLC, that's what I couldn't tell.
Well, and I would say, I would beg the question, Jean. So first, let's take a step back, right? Does it really have to be VLC? Can it be whatever? You know, do you really care if it's VLC? I've done a little bit of automation with VLC using the ACC library to automate controls on it. Just so I know I've actually tested that. But back to where you were talking about, Sean, like, I don't know how VLC, because I don't use it for the playlist stuff. But last week, after our class little session here, I don't know if you guys have seen the intro to classes that Jean did for Dylan and I, but after that session, we talked a little bit, and I showed him, which I could pull it up here, but I have a very simple MP3 random player, and I can point to a folder, and then anything in there and beneath it, it loops over all those MP3 files, randomly picks one, and just keeps going. And then I have hotkeys that I can jump to the next file, or I can even, like I told John, I can, if I say, good Lord, I never want to hear that song again, I can hit another hotkey and I can delete the actual file, which for me is, I'm okay
you're
with.
Creating your own VLC or iTunes.
Well, and that's my point, right? Yeah. And I'm just using the sound play, functionality, right?
In AutoHotkey. But what could be also done is to launch VLC with a given file that you select. So instead of using play sound, you could use VLC and just pass as a parameter probably the path to the file that you want to play. It will not be added to a playlist. It will be played right now. But if you create a short list in AutoHotkey with 10 songs that you want to play, there are probably ways using command like run wait, for example, that will run a song in VLC and wait until the program finishes before going to the next line of your script. Then it would play the next song in your loop if you have a loop with a given number of files. We have the-Automator connecting.
Yeah, so that now the Windows Media Player has a COM object, and so. And from talking to Maestri, I've never played with it, but he has, and he was saying, oh yeah, you can really control everything with what you want. So, and that's built into Windows. So even if you don't like it, again, if it gives you the functionality you want, right? But yeah, there's, I think, several ways we could go about it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that help, Brian? And I know we're a little delayed here, so.
Yeah, we will know in 45 seconds, maybe. And Brian, you can join us on Zoom if you wish. Is the link to the Zoom meeting available on the chat description, or?
I'll put it there. It's actually on my clipboard. Yeah.
And if you go from YouTube to Zoom, you miss 45 seconds because you jump directly to the source of this webcast.
I was just looking at I'm just curious, Sean, your post has a wrench next to it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Apparently I can put you in timeout. It really makes me laugh. I don't know what that means.
I don't remember if I put it myself at the end of my name.
You know what I think it is? Because you're a moderator. I think just it's a little different because you're a moderator.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so Brian is on Zoom now.
Yeah. Now in the last 40 seconds, we told the answer. So sorry.
Next question. Ryan, do you want to jump in?
You know what I think it is? Because you're a moderator. I think just it's a little different because you're a moderator.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Oh, good. Did our answer help at all? Do you want to discuss it a bit more?
Yeah, so Brian is on Zoom now.
Yeah, now in the last 40 seconds, we told the answer, so sorry. You need to mute your stream.
Yes.
Brian,
Not
Yeah, so
the
you cut the mic,
necessarily-
but you could cut your speaker
yeah, on the channel.
on the channel, the one that is
Browser.
playing the browser, yes, and keep the one that you're using.
Yeah, so Brian is on Zoom now. Now, the last 40 seconds we told the answer, so sorry.
Same issue.
That's right. He'll figure it out. Oh, or he'll drop it. Yeah. So you just have to
He'll be
stop
back.
watching the live stream and join Zoom.
Yeah, or cut the sound of the browser
Right.
of the browser. Yeah.
Right. We should build a script for that, John, to instantly kill your audio from the browser. But the problem is some people actually join from a browser. So
yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about the ini file while we wait for other questions, unless we have?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you were saying there's a
limitation. Yeah, related to the size of the content of your. I'll just share my screen here.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also just you have to realize you can't have line breaks. Correct? You have to take care of those as well. Is that?
Yeah, you have to convert them. Yeah, you can convert them with. In my case, I replace all break lines with tick n as in AutoHotkey, so it makes the whole content fit on one line. So there's a ini file here named size.ini that has a section named test1 and another section named test2. It's a small issue, a very niche issue, but when you deal with large content in your ini file, it can be a problem. The issue is that if a section has more than 65,000 characters in one section, if you use the command ini read to read the section, so let's say here I will read the section. So if you're not familiar with this, ini read will read an ini file. You pass here the name of the file.
Can you zoom in a little, please?
Are you okay? Zoom in. Yeah.
Thank you. It just helps.
So the file here, what is read from this file will be put in this variable, and what we ask here is to read the section test1. Most of the time, when you will read something from an ini file, you will also let's say v1 here is my first. V1, let me just make it that. Yeah, V1 is the first content under test1. So if I read V1 here, it will, I'll just, so what we see here is the content of the V1 variable, if you wish, of the section test1. But sometimes you need to read a whole section. And in my case, for quick access pop-up, is that before, when you save your settings, before saving the new setting, I create a backup of the existing setting inside the ini file. So the section that is named favorites, in my case, I make a copy of it under the name favorites-backup, just in case something go wrong and we can recover from the backup. But at some point, some users reported that they had issue with this, and I discovered that these users had very large ini file because they had many favorites, because they have snippets. Snippets are pieces of text that can be short but can also be long. So over time, they accumulate so many content in their quick access pop-up menu that they went over the 65,533 characters, to be exact, if I remember well. So in this case, when you read, let me close this here. So when you read the whole section, so let's do it here. It's reading the whole section of test1, which is short. So we see here that the section starts at so the length of the section is here. It is 1560 characters. Let's forget about the other section for now. So now I will switch with to section 2, which is very long. Test 2 is very long. It is 665 lines of 100 characters. So over, I think over, if not, I will just add some content to it. So here, it will say that it contains 65,533 characters. Even if I add content to it, let me add. So I'm making this even longer here now. Whoops. And if I read it again, it will still say that I have the same length. So it will truncate the content of my section to 65,533 characters, which is not very good when you want to do a backup of something, to have a part of your content being truncated. So that's a limitation that you have to know, and there are workarounds to this limitation, but if you don't know it, you may lose data at some point. So that's something that is good to know.
Can I interrupt you there for a minute, Jean?
Yeah.
And I'm going to put the link in here just because it was a really great webinar. It's one of my favorite ones that we did, and we meaning you.
Yeah.
The webinar you did on encoding, like that whole understanding, because like I said, it's so hard to learn because no one really talks about it. It's just something you're assumed to understand and know. And I'll put the link here in the chat. But I was reading, and I don't know if you can even help. I was reading the help, and it says, I think the standard is like UTF-16, I think is what it reads by default, reads and writes to. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So,
by default 16, yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
You can mention another format. Can you mention another format? It will work with UTF-8 files.
Mm-hmm.
If you create the file yourself and may name it settings.ini, and if you don't mention the encoding in AutoHotkey when you create this file with the AutoHotkey file append command, then it will be UTF-8. And Windows will have no issue reading this and writing to this file in this format. But if you create this file using ini write command, for example, then it will be created with UTF-16, and it will double the size of the file.
Well, and that was my question of when we start talking about quote unquote number of characters. Does that mean it's going to take up twice as much space, right, per character?
Yeah. But the issue I was talking about is about the number of characters, regardless of the encoding. So it's not an issue of the size of the memory size. It's an issue of the number of characters that can be put in a given variable inside AutoHotkey or inside Windows. I'm not sure which is the culprit here, but I guess it's Windows that is, because AutoHotkey usually do call to Windows. Someone said 65,535. I think, in fact, I don't know why, maybe because end of line or something like that. It's 65,533, which is the maximum number that can be read using ini read. So just to, would it make sense to have snippets in a different file like text file? Yes, it could, but it's working without doing it at this point, taking into account this limitation that I was talking about. But there's workaround, and the workaround is, if, for example, if I want to create a backup of a section, instead of reading and writing the section, I'm reading the whole text file and just rename the section name, making sure I'm replacing just the section name as a section name, not the section name that could appear somewhere else in the content, but just by renaming the section name from favorites to favorites-backup and then resave the file, it does what I want to create a backup of my previous favorites. So it's not 100% kosher, I would say, but it works. But yes, putting snippets in a separate file could work, but it means a lot of files that you have to deal with, and especially if you want to port your settings to another computer, or if you use in quick access pop-up, you can have shared menus. Shared menus are any file that can be on a cloud drive and being used by different users and adding content or reading the content of this file that becomes a menu from various computers at the same time with conflict checking and all this. Doing that with external files for snippets would mean dealing with a lot of file management. So at this point, I was able to avoid that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jean. I mean, other snippets, and I don't know why, because to me, I'm one of those people that have hundreds and hundreds of them, but it's not what most people use in QAP. They're using it for other things on average.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe 20% of users will use snippets, and 20% of users will use something else and something else. You know, there's so many things. There's not many users that will all use everything in the application, but there's a large number of users of snippets. And you can have also macro snippets that will send keystroke to applications. So not as powerful as AutoHotkey scripting, but will also allow to do interesting things with snippets in quick access pop-up.
Cool. Were you done with your explanation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We can go further explaining any read, any write if someone wants to be introduced to that, but that's not necessarily the goal of our call this morning.
But they are great. It's built in AutoHotkey. It works, as Jean was saying, very fast, very reliable. It's also very simple. I mean, the first couple times you use it, it's a little confusing because you got to understand there are sections, and then there's your.
Yeah, it's a good way to just remember something from one session to the other. So, or to save preferences, things like that. Yeah, and yeah, and it's also easy to edit. So a user to which you send your application with some default values in the ini file can easily open the file, edit it, and change the folder default folders or things like that in these files. But it can become also a repository for a large volume of data, well structured, as I'm doing in AutoHotkey in quick access pop-up.
I like to use it to when anything with my APIs, especially where I have my keys and tokens and I don't want them shared, I purposely put them in an any file, and that way when I share the script, I don't have to worry I'm sharing my tokens, and or if I display my screen, they're also not in there, which is just it's too easy to do when you're live.
Yeah, we have some new users. Do you have any question? You can use the chat on Zoom if you wish to ask a question, or just open your mic.
Hopefully everyone in
Hi, can anyone hear me?
Yes, Dan.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. My name's Dan, and I sent Joe some software last night, but it was probably too late for him to look at this morning. So we can talk about it in a future week. But one of the questions I had on automating one piece of software that does not have control elements, so I had to use more crude methods, and it has a menu, which always has the menu items in the same spot in its window, so I use coordinates to open that. And unless you have a hidden secret, which you might when there's no control elements found by Windows Spy.
Well, what's the program you're trying to automate?
It is called, it has two names. One is Fiji. It's an acronym, F-I-J-I, and it's runs the basic program is called ImageJ. It's image manipulation. It's open source software created by the National Institute of Health. And the email I sent you, which I sent late last night, so you probably haven't looked at it, has the link on where to download it. But it has a Wikipedia entry. So if you want to find it, go to Wikipedia and look in the word Fiji, like the island, but on the disambiguation page, choose software. And that also gives a link on where to load it. So I use the coordinates. We can talk about this on another week too. But
well, yeah. I mean, the file you sent, it looks like it's over 275 megs.
I sent you two. That's the actual software that I'm using. And it's in Google, whatever the Google method is that Google Drive, that's how it's sensitive when it's big. The AutoHotkey script is in the tiny email.
Well, yeah, but I I mean, I don't have it set up where I can easily create a sandbox, and I'm just not going to install
I have an easy
random-
question then, a concept question. On one of the spots, there's a checkbox that you fill in on the menu. And I found that pressing the space bar toggles the checkbox.
Well, just let me interrupt you just for a second here, because can you share your screen and show us? Because I mean, there's
sure. Let me try that.
Right. Yeah. I don't mind trying to test it. It's just
that's fine.
You know.
I don't. You are familiar with neat things to do with software, with Zoom even. All right, so let's do that because that sounds like a much better method. Let's see. I think the bottom there's a share screen. Is that what I use on Zoom? Okay, so I've just pressed that, and anyone who thinks I'm being inefficient in time and has another question can interrupt me. So
make sure there's no sensitive information on your screen.
Oh, there is. I don't think there is.
Okay. And if you have multiple monitor, you'll have to select which monitor you want to share.
Actually, I do have enough, but I disconnected it because it was too confusing getting Zoom and 2 monitors working. So I just have one at the moment. And let's see what I want to put in. Can anyone see any screen here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so, okay. So there's a screen, a folder that has the both the software, which is in this Fiji app folder, and then the AutoHotkey script and some instructional material. There's also documentation inside the script, but we'll start this. Actually, it's already running, but it won't hurt to start it again. When it's ready, it has to preload the software. When it's preloaded the software, it tells me it's okay.
Then if you shared only the folder, the Windows Explorer window, we won't see the script running. So you would have to stop sharing and share again, selecting the screen, the whole screen, not only the folder.
I can find that.
Stop sharing.
Okay. Maybe the most valuable thing I'll learn here is how to use Zoom correctly.
Yeah.
I'm looking for it. Was on the bottom before.
Yeah, stop sharing. You have to find where's the window. Yeah, sometimes it's disappearing.
You know what I finally realized the other day, Sean, is that it's the fact that when the window's not active, that toolbar disappears, and then you don't think it's on there, but you have to click.
Could go behind something else, or
So, boy, should I just close this and restart? You are sharing screen.
I can do that.
I found it.
Oh, good.
Okay, so you share again, and you select the screen.
So what you want?
Where you want to show us your script and your application.
So I have to do this each time it opens a new window.
Well, if you share the desktop, then
it will share anything that run on this screen.
I am looking for. There's the one that has the video picture of Jack Lalonde on it. Is that the one I should? No, that's probably not what I should click. Sorry for delaying you on something that's really so trivial.
But
show all windows. Is that the option? Show all windows.
Well,
you have something screen 1, screen 2, or just screen, depending.
I'm running on a single monitor computer.
Yeah, so screen would be what you want to share.
Advanced.
Yeah, instead of the actual application.
Content from second camera.
They're at the top usually.
Looking.
Unfortunately, you cannot share your screen for us to help you sharing your screen.
There's something called speaker gallery, full screen. Maybe that's it. So it says full screen. Oh, but that was display. Sorry.
Oh, that's.
Here, I'm going to stop your share.
Okay, that's fine because I think I'm being inefficient.
No, don't worry about it. It's okay. I mean, we're here to help people. So, but what I was going to say was I'm going to share my screen. Now I'm trying to figure out which screen is actually shared. Oh, here we go. So I took a little window shot of my tool when I'm going to share. So it comes up and I have screen 1, 2, 3. These are the applications, but you want to pick screen, not the programs.
Yeah, I will share screen. Okay, do that. This will stop others sharing.
Good.
Maybe Joe, you have to stop sharing. Yeah.
And we'll start it again. And then, so I'm back on the selection screen. It's on basic rather than advanced.
That's fine.
Share sound, yes. Optimize for video clip. I'll ignore that.
You're not in the right menu. You're not at the right place.
Okay. And there's a bottom.
I mean,
You have to hit the same button you hit before to share your folder.
Well, I did that.
Okay.
But, it doesn't seem to have one for the whole screen. It has many of the folders that are
Well,
open.
then just pick the application you're wanting, if you can see that, and that'll work now.
Yeah, but if there's a script and the application, not sure.
Yeah, but
if
I
you will
don't
see
care
both
about
things.
the script right
Yeah,
now.
okay, you want to see the application for now. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So,
Yes, we see the button
Toolbar.
the toolbar. Yeah.
do you see a? You might see something that I'm not seeing right now.
We see the Fiji toolbar. Oh, there we go.
I think I had it minimized. Anyway, so here's the. Hey, maybe we're actually get somewhere. The zoom is covering up. Well, but fortunately, it's not covering up the key things. At the top, there's one labeled process on the menu bar. So what I have here is at the top it says Fiji is just image. It's a backronym. The actual software is image J, and Fiji stands for Fiji is just image J. It's sort of a container that has extra functions. So image J was what they originally made. Then Fiji was a thing with extra stuff, and they gave it that funny backronym where Fiji is just image. Anyway, the menu item is process, and I clicked on that. Can you see a sub-menu open?
Yeah.
Okay, and down at the bottom, there's one enhanced local contrast. This is the first menu that I had to use coordinates for.
Did you try using when menu select item?
Is that an AutoHotkey thing or a Windows thing?
Yeah, no, it's a command in AutoHotkey, and on older menus, they work really, really well. It just depends on how your program was built.
So it's
another alternative would be to press Alt P. Maybe if you press the Alt key, do you see shortcut on your menu?
It does not have a underlined letter.
No, there's no letters. Okay, so
no underlined letter.
Yeah.
And Windows Spy does not reveal anything either.
Well,
so, but the thing you mentioned works independently of Windows things that Windows Spy finds.
I don't want to state incorrectly. I
Okay.
can't say 100%. It doesn't work off of the same controls, though. I can tell you that, right? It does other things. I just don't remember if the Windows Spy might report, the menus. I don't use it that often, so I don't know.
But I guess that this menu is not a standard Windows menu, because if there's no Alt underscore, it's something that is part of every menu that is built with standard Windows menu. So this application probably built its own menu bar with some features in it that they control, but some features that they don't necessarily have.
Dan, I put a script
maybe
in the Zoom chat called ACC Viewer _JG. Can you see where that is in the chat?
I don't see it on the chat.
Maybe I'll see later.
I just sent it to Dan instead of everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
So I show up an email or no?
No, it's in chat.
Chat.
But it's okay.
There's chat, and there are three things. Okay. Yes. ACC. I've got it. I see it here.
So save that somewhere.
Okay.
And when you launch it, we're probably not going to be able to see it, unfortunately, but that's okay.
Download. Okay, so I've downloaded it, and I'll try to start it. It's running now. Accessible.
Okay.
Its menu is up.
Yeah, in the top left corner is like a little crosshairs thing.
Yes.
Click there and drag it to your menu bar up top there.
Doing that.
And as you're mousing over, oh, I think I saw a little red box
so
there for a second.
Yeah, we don't see the result of this, but we saw that you put it there.
Sure. Things that it has, you can tell me which ones you're most interested in.
Well, I can simplify this because all I wanted to know was, did the red box show up there?
Red box. I don't.
When you dropped it there, which is what I saw, it was isolated on just on process.
Oh yes, it did.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, I used your IW thing defined comms? Are we doing something? I've forgotten how to do it, but
No, well, that's a whole different architecture, but it's a similar concept, right?
It circles things, yeah. And
Yeah, right.
so the red box, it's circling quite a few menu items, but
Sure,
I have
yeah,
it over
but
the first item.
Right, but it's okay. All
And
I
let go.
wanted to check was what this tells me is the ACC viewer can peek inside these things, right? So that's a good sign. It means we might be able to use the ACC technology to access and trigger these things.
And I can tell you any items from the ACC menu if you want.
No, it's not
Okay.
going to really,
Okay.
you know, without being able to see everything else and write a script and stuff, we're not going to be able to touch it right now, right? But
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying is like this at least gives you an insight of like, hey, that ACC, if Jean is correct, I would still, just to prove it wrong, because it's simple to try, that when menu select item or whatever it's called, I would Google that and give it a try, because it's easy, very simple to try and just confirm. Because if that works, that's your go-to. Trust me, it's very reliable and fast. He's probably correct because there's no underscores and highlights. It's some sort of custom thing and won't work. And so my next step would be the ACC approach. But yeah.
All right, so I'll explore, is window menu.
Win menu.
Select
item.
And that's an AutoHotkey script, or that's something
command.
else?
It's a command built into AutoHotkey. Yeah, that can automatically.
You could test it with Notepad, for example, just to confirm that it works with a standard Windows application, and then try to do the same in your Fiji application.
Which, John, that's a really good lesson to teach people of, if you're trying something new and you're trying it on also a tool that no one else on the forum or anyone has ever done, first use that tool in something that you have like Notepad, where people have demoed and go, oh, I see it doing that. Okay, now I'm going to adapt this to my tool, and that at least it helps you decrease the likelihood that you're screwing something up and don't even realize it, right? But yeah.
So that's really neat. I'll have to explore that. Going the next step. So right now I have it working with coordinates because those seem to be constant in the window. So it's actually working for me, even though it's not elegant. And so I go down here and open this, and then the submenu opens, which you might be able to see that says Clayhe at the top, a small sub window.
Yeah, the dialog box, yes.
And it has about 4 fill-in boxes and then a checkbox. And I can tab through these. I keep the default values, they're fine. The one I want to change, though, is the last one that has the checkbox. And I found it in quite a few software that the space bar often toggles.
Yeah, sure. Well, did you try using SimpleSpy on that to see if it's a click?
Yeah, but I would try it again because sometimes I forget what I've done, but I'm pretty sure I've done that. But I'll try it once more just to be sure.
And again, is the Alt key will reveal some shortcuts?
When you say reveal,
I mean, if you press just Alt key, it would show underscore if there are underscore shortcuts. Maybe there are not.
Nothing changes. I've used Alt things when there's an underlined letter. This does not have underlined letters.
So there's no one.
When I press. And Windows Spy does not have anything for the control.
Not Windows. I said SimpleSpy, but
simple. Oh, okay.
But that's okay. I mean, it should still show you a control in the Windows Spy tool, the tool you're using. It didn't have anything there when you moused over that.
That is correct. It does not have either in the checkbox itself or its label.
But using tab and space, once it's the keyboard, is pretty reliable. Not as much as controlling it from the inside, if you wish, but yes, it should work.
And then,
and if it is only for you, if you want to distribute a script to someone else, this person could have a different configuration of the same application that would break your script. But if it's for yourself, should be good with that.
If I distribute to anyone, they'll be less tinkering than I am, and we'll probably keep all the defaults. And this is the default. So I'm thinking it probably will work. And then the one problem I have here then is that if I want the checkbox unchecked, I could just assume that the first use its default seems to be checked, but I want it unchecked. I could just assume that do something to detect first usage and unclick that time. But I thought I should make it more reliable by doing some kind of check for the check mark. And I first tried pixel get color, and I thought that was going to work. But then, unlike the first box that has the menu, this one doesn't seem reliable because I think it has different sizes. As you can see me moving it back and forth. So pixel get color, oddly, when I tried it and then used mouse click or mouse move to find out where it was checking up here higher in the window than where I thought it was checking. So then I thought, well, maybe I should use image search and make a cutout of.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've played with Automate My Task. It's just a much simpler way to do image search, and looking for stuff to click.
Is that command different from image search?
That's a program that it's from me, meaning it's from me. Maestriath wrote it for me, but it's of my design and idea. But it allows you to use a GUI to drag stuff and say, hey, look for this, look for fast, and then move over to the left, a couple pixels and click there. And then when it saves it, it doesn't save the image. It's a binary representation of it. So you don't have all these extra files. And when you export, it gives you the AutoHotkey syntax to run. So it just streamlines the whole. I rarely use it because I try to find more robust ways to do stuff. But boy, when you're stuck on stuff like this, it can be a lifesaver. But to Jean's point, if you're using it on different computers with different resolutions, any image thing just sucks. I would far more likely say use the tabbing and keystrokes over any sort of image search. If you're going to have other people using this, you're asking for trouble if you're looking for images.
So what I thought was a crude approach was keeping track of whether it was the first instance of running the program, and therefore assuming that it came up with its default of having it checkmarked might be more reliable than do some kind of counter for first usage. And
you should be able to use that ACC library, or I'd say that one should tell you, you should be able. It should be able to see that. I've had really good success when if that ACC library can see any sort of the menus or anything. Generally, like almost anything on that tool, you can peek into, and you should be able to programmatically detect. Is it able to?
Yeah, I'm attempting the ACC now. And we're looking for a red bar. And testing, make sure it's still working up above. I guess it's not letting me do anything because the Fiji sub window is stopping.
Well,
go ahead.
I would. Can you see the ACC? Because we can't see it, so it's hard to tell what you're doing. Can you see the ACC tool?
I have the tool open. It no longer, the menu that we got the red border around earlier, it no longer makes the red border. And I think what's blocking it is the Fiji sub window is activated.
We're not trying to look for that. I'm just saying, you can see the ACC viewer tool, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you drag the crosshairs to this checkbox?
Oh, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot the crosshairs.
Yeah, no worries.
I just, yes, and it does put a circle around
the
entire.
Now,
go ahead.
At the bottom of that ACC viewer, and if you can do a screenshot, this would be great. It'd be an easy way to share it. But there should be some numbers.
This looks really promising. It tells me button 1.
Well, but are there numbers at the bottom of the ACC viewer, like 4.3.2, something like that?
I think not. There's a show more. Maybe I should click on the show more. Oh, and show more. Yes, that show more is good, I think.
But we're looking for the path, and in the ACC viewer tool, there's a path. And why don't we do this just so other people? And I'm going to have to go here in a few minutes. Unfortunately, I have something I have to jump onto.
10 minutes, in fact, for me.
Let me share my screen, and we'll just demo. I think that's the wrong tool. So I have so many hotkeys, So here's the ACC viewer tool that we were demonstrating, and let's bring up Like I don't even know what we're going to do here. Tools. You know what? As to Jean's point, let's start Notepad. We'll start something that everyone will have. And we're going to bring up and we'll say font. So this is what we were looking at, right? And we can drag and you can see stuff. But see this right here where it says path 4? That's what I was trying to see if you had the path.
Did not have it.
Okay. Well, what you can still do, which is what you realized, was it does reliably give you the location, right? This stuff will be available. And you can use this to say, hey, send a click to the coordinates. And what I would think, now let me think, can anybody think of a Notepad where there's a radio, maybe the search for place? Does that have a checkbox? Well, close enough. I would think that these might be able to say whether it's enabled. Oh, so actually uncheck. Let's see if that changes now. So see how that changed?
Yes.
So I think theoretically, this can tell you whether it's checked or unchecked programmatically, right? So you could get the location. Well, actually using the, well, that's where you do need the path, but I don't know. We're going to have to see, this one has that button class. Now, did you have this at all?
No, those were blank.
Okay.
It had the hand, it had the, those were for the win, those were for the whole window, I think, at the top. Oh no, that says control inflow on yours. Can I go back without?
Yeah, you can do whatever on yours.
Let me see if I can do that. Actually, it's taking, Zoom is taking up the whole screen. Let's see if I can type exit full screen. Okay. So, no, I'm exploring that again. No path at the bottom. However, in the top part, under class NN, it has button 1.
Well, see, and to me now, boys, apps S. So this is Simple Spy, right? This is another tool that we wrote.
No,
that,
what I've got up on right. Oh, okay. Oh, sure. I anticipated what you were saying. What I was looking at was ACC, but go ahead. Yes.
So here, this tells me the class and the control that then you would send a control click to, right? Or send text to or whatever. But if you can use,
probably find what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can see, if it can see these control, this and this, then you can use the simple controls with AutoHotkey and it'll do what you want, which is far simpler than the ACC library and far more controllable.
And so, and Simple Spy does better than Windows Spy.
Well, it's just less. Okay. Like if you look at this is why I don't use this one, is it gives you so many things that to me it's confusing. However, look, if I turn on, where is it, the follow mouse, and I come over here, right? This somewhere in here, this is why I don't use it. It's like, see button 2, here's the class NN was button 2. And that was what I think with this guy, I forget which one we were on, but see it's button 2. Now, here's the other thing. I'm quote unquote lying, right? Because in AutoHotkey, you use control get, control set, whatever, right? But you go looking for controls, then there aren't any. There's class NN. And I always found that very confusing for when I first learned them. And I'm like, I'm going to call mine control. This is really class NN. But in my tool, I said, and it drove Maestria kind of nuts because he's like, it's not that. I'm like, I know, but it just confuses people. So I'm going to say control, look, it's control button 2. And then you say control get, button 2 instead of class NN, because people will say, go put in the class NN. And you're like, well, wait a minute, where's the control? It just, so they're the same thing though, is my point. I just put a different label so it didn't confuse people. And let's see here. So here, and what if I did blah and set text? There, notice I updated that control. But and it's not built for that, but it is a functionality you can do. But I would definitely check on the controls first because they're so much easier to work with. compared to the ACC library.
So there might be a control that I just could not find with Windows Spy. I'm pretty sure I checked.
Well, you just may not have noticed it. You know, this is where you're looking, right? In Windows Spy. Again, it's the same thing. This is what I'm saying is like, now it's what I don't know is that's what I don't know if John knows. That whole menu select item, I don't know if those, see, I don't think those show up. That's why when you asked earlier about using this tool in the window menu thing, like I don't know if that information is revealed in here. I don't recall. But that when menu select item is definitely something I would at least try because it's highly reliable and fast and accurate. So I would try, the controls are too though, by the way. So I would try the controls first. If that doesn't work, the window menu select item approach. And if that doesn't work, then the ACC library.
Okay, well, that is great advice. And if I didn't need to find out whether the check mark was there, the tab method alone would be sufficient, tab and spacebar. Yeah. But I needed to know what it's
but you could use the control get command in AutoHotkey to get the current state of the checkbox.
If it has a control, yes. Which it,
yeah, if you can identify the class of the window and the name of the control. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine for now. A general, I should probably let you go because you said 10 minutes and we're probably there.
I have
5 for myself.
I have a quick question. Do you have to use that Fiji tool?
It is the only free software that I know of that does what I want.
And what are you doing?
It is enhances the contrast in an image. So here's what the purpose is. You take photographers might even like this. If you took a image that was on your computer and then put it in your clipboard, you run this program and it shows you that image, but with the contrast maximized. For a photographer, when it might be nice is if you took a picture and it was nearly dark and you wanted to still see the people, it would optimize the contrast in the picture.
Yeah, I would look at the Windows image acquisition. That's the COM object that might be able to do, and it's a COM object that you can really control and do a lot with, right? It might do what you want, and it's built into Windows.
That would be wonderful, but I'm not expecting it, just because it's more, the algorithm is more sophisticated than probably most people would want. What it actually does, I described it as contrast enhancement. It actually does it on a regional basis. It makes small squares that you can set the size throughout the window. So it makes the dark parts of the image brighter without making the bright parts brighter.
Well, and it's okay. I mean, you're saying is it's more advanced than, just simply adding contrast. So I get
to me that Microsoft would put it in their software.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying you can do some basic image stuff with the thing, but yeah, if what you have is, if you're doing is more advanced, then yeah, it's not going to do what you want.
Now, this software was probably written in C or something. Unfortunately, I don't know C, but it's open source software, open for users to modify. Side point, the Fiji program actually has a built-in shortcut making utility. Back in that script, there was one labeled plugins, and within that, there's one that says shortcuts, and within that, it says make a custom shortcut. But why I didn't want to do that is I don't know how to have it set up for somebody I share the program with. I'd have to give them instructions on.
I would do it on your computer and look to see, I would look at all the files in the folder before you do it, and then create the shortcut and look and see if it simply just saves a file, because you might be able to just save that file, for the new person somewhere, and it might make it really easy for you.
Yes, that would be a hope. I appreciate everyone's help here. You people have been really good. And I just realized your name was not John. It's, or maybe, well, I am pronouncing it correct. John Lalonde.
Yeah, Jean. It's French pronunciation. Jean.
I liked your suggestion from a couple weeks ago, which I've now started to use some, of putting the variable type in front of a name with an underscore. I think it's makes things less confusing. So I'm now using what I can call the Lalonde method.
That's awesome.
I'll have a copyright for that.
Okay, well,
I'm
thanks
really
everyone.
not the first one to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to go. Me too.
Yeah.
So
So
thank you, Dan, for being with us, and
Yeah.
see you again.
And if you would like to try this software, Joe, you can forward it to him. The only reason to use the folder with the application that I sent to you, as opposed to just downloading it yourself from the NIH, is that I already put the plugin in. But sophisticated people like you could do that, although you do have to search through it has like 200 plugins choices. So